my absolutely brilliant and beautiful astrology soulmates, it's me, Stormie Grace, and welcome to this video where we are going to talk about Uranus entering into the vibration of Gemini. But we're not just going to talk about this ingress, okay? There's a lot to talk about. We are also going to come at this from the perspective of looking at the lunar phase that this is coming in under, because it is telling us so much about the larger syllabus that Uranus is helping us to unfold the story of. We're also going to look at the different aspects that are in play while we're experiencing this ingress as well. So there's a lot to cover in this video. Now, before we jump in, if you have not jumped into the Venus Reset program, I would love to have you in there. The energy of the world today would love to have you in there, reconnected to your softness, reconnected to clarity around who you are, what you value, what you're made of today. I would love to see your reproductive, sacral, organ space be healed, be softened, be released back into a state of comfort. So I invite you to jump into that program. And for those of you who realize this is it, we are in the digital revolution and you have a message to share, you have a skill to share, you have wisdom. The world will need your wisdom, not more noise. If you're ready to come onto YouTube, I'm teaching an additional YouTube breakthrough challenge starting in August. It's 6 weeks, and every week I will be there live with you. Not every week, like one day a week. I'm there with you for 6 weeks, helping you come onto YouTube, learn how to build your channel, a strategy of how to make videos, and also directly who you're talking to. So if that is you and you are ready and you are serious about having a different experience with the world that you're living in and adding something that is not just noise and bullshit, but it's actually something useful, I would love to see you in class. That's all in the description box down below. Now, for those of you who are not really interested in the whole of the astrology that we're going to break down in this video, let me bring you to this section that I like to call the end at the beginning, where you get a quick breakdown of what is going on with this transit, and then you can click out of the video being a little bit informed. Essentially what's happening is on July 7th, 2025, we're going to kick off a 7-8 year experience and transit of Uranus moving into Gemini, the way we speak, the way that we communicate, the way that we do business, the way that we share information. Depending on where this is at in your particular chart, you're going to want to look at where Uranus is coming around to create a breakthrough in the way that things have been stuck, in the way you've been thinking about something. It creates a space of liberty, of freedom. Now, you do also have to be careful as Uranus is transiting this particular house in your chart, which you do need your personal chart to be able to see where 0 degrees of Gemini is at in your chart. Wherever that is, Uranus is going to get it unstuck. Okay, it's going to get it unstuck. So you get like a blast of lightning that gets you off the fence and gets you moving into a particular direction. All right, beautiful friends, that's the end at the beginning. That's the basics of this transit. But for the rest of us, let's jump in and really pull this thing apart. And of course, there are timestamps down below. Okay, now, like I said, we want to start looking at, first of all, what's really going on in the sky. So one of the things that we see happening as we're looking at this transit is that you can see that all 3 of our professor planets, the outer planets, Neptune, Pluto, and Uranus, they are all in masculine signs. This is an important signal for us to be paying attention to. Gemini, Aries, Aquarius, all fire, all air. Okay, fire and air is a compatible set of energies to be working with. So these planets all being in conversation, all of our professors, the one who set the syllabus for what we're learning, and you can't push up against an outer planet and say, I don't feel like learning it. Right? It's not like that. They say, this is what's on the syllabus. This is what we're learning. This is how we are proceeding forward. In masculine energy, when masculine energy is leading, we are going to be asked to externalize, to act, and to move energy forward, right? It's a forward moving energy. But what does that also mean for feminine energy? Well, it means we're going to have to work to stay a little bit more conscious and connected to softness, to inner knowing, to embodiment, to nervous system regulation, especially as the outside world is going to be accelerating, right? Feminine wisdom does not disappear under these sets of energies. Instead, it's going to be a place where we're going to find our anchoring and our binding, and that will be the strong, soft, empowered place where we begin new conversations. So while you're going around and you're experiencing this energy, I wanted you to have an opportunity to pan back and see what also is available to us when we have all of the professors in masculine energy. I can't tell you how many people I have heard say that because all of the energies are coming into masculine energies, masculine signs, that it's just the end of the world. And I don't choose to believe in that. I don't think that we have every single indication throughout history or in our own homes to see that this isn't a possibility to do something else with it. But we do know we will be externalizing and we will be in more action. So feminine energies have a chance to ground. Other reason I would love to see you in the Venus Reset program. But let's also take a look at here. We've got that signature to consider. But what does the lunar phase of this particular ingress show us? So as we can see, when Uranus is entering into Gemini here, it's under this gibbous phase, okay? And this is just days before the full moon. So this lunar story is a moment of ripening. We're ripening. We're not starting from scratch here. Instead, we're refining what has already been put in motion, right? We're troubleshooting, we're asking questions, we're entering into a space of apprenticeship, of mentorship, we're asking better questions, we're leaning into more community, we're leaning into learning, we're leaning into having relationships in our lives that, first of all, make us ask deeper questions and also help us expand. When we look at this gibbous energy, this is the lush expansion of what I call midsummer energy, okay? So in this language that I use around the lunar phasings, when I'm talking about summer, I would love for you to hold this vision. It's abundant, right? In the summer, it's abundant. Yes, it's hot, depending on where you live. It's abundant, but it's abundant of relationships. It's abundant of communications. It's abundant in maturity, right? But we have to go to these things in order to learn and to ask the questions that we need to ask. There's also a heaviness, I think, that comes with the gibbous moment as well. It's not in a bad way, but it's in a way that is like, I realize that in order to grow, I have to show up differently. I have to take actions that are different, right? Uranus in Gemini isn't just about the new ideas. This will be a massive piece of what this transit brings in here, obviously, but it's evolving the whole nervous system of your being, and I think the whole nervous system of a culture as well, right? The way we learn, the way that we teach, the way that we connect, the way that we transmit information, what we're transmitting information about. So with Uranus stepping into Gemini and doing it under this gibbous light, I think we are called to really have this refining of our message, to take our communication a bit more seriously, to get honest about how we are relating in our everyday lives, especially in our nervous systems, in our bodies, where the truth really, really lives. How do we also relate and communicate with those that are closest to us, right? Think Gemini, think siblings, think neighbors, think that nervous system, your own inner voice. So this particular lunar phase that we're coming under is, again, this conversation of being very, very active. This is a very active ingress as we are going to experience it. So now what will you do with it? Let's talk about some key dates. We've got to get the facts down here on paper as well. So check them out here on your screen. So first of all, let's take a look at the key moments of movement of Uranus throughout Gemini as we're here in 2025, okay? So first of all, we're going to see that on the 7th, that Uranus moves here into Gemini. And this is the first ingress that we're experiencing. The first ingress is always the most intense. If you can visualize here, whenever a planet, particularly one of the professors, which is going to set a whole new tone for the globe, moves into a new sign, it's like plucking the string of a guitar really hard, and it starts to go anything that is not keyed to the vibration of Uranus and Gemini is going to get our attention quickly, right? So things that are not already broken through, things we don't have liberty around are going to get our attention. It's the most intense. The people who have planets or points, some of you want to play with asteroids at those early degrees of Gemini, you're going to feel this quite intensely, but also those who have planets or points in mutable signs. So we're going to be looking at Gemini. We're going to be looking at Virgo. We're going to be looking at, who's our other mutable? Sagittarius. And we're also going to be looking at Pisces. So if you've got planets and points between 0 and 4 degrees, you're going to feel this pretty intensely. Okay. July 7th brings us to the ingress. Then we're going to see Uranus retrograde in November, on November 7th, and slide back into the vibration of Taurus. Now, when we get into April 25th of 2026, we'll see that Uranus re-enters Gemini, and we're going to start to do the long haul here. Okay, so as we're coming in, remember, we're just getting a snack as Uranus enters Gemini right now, but we're going to take the whole enchilada on when we get into 2026. When we get to 2032, just to say this, Uranus is going to take this little brief journey into Cancer. And then in December, it's going to, upon retrograde, come back into Gemini. And then we'll see another little dance in 2033, as well. So I want you to have the full picture of how long we're really doing this dance. Something else I just want to say, a happy return to those people who are having a Uranus return. So those of you born between about 1941 and 1949, if you were born during this window, this is a sacred personal return for you. Not everybody gets this, right? It is still going to be a time of liberation. Anything that's been stifled in you, even at 84 something years old, right? This is so much more alignment with your true voice. And I just want to say happy return to you. I believe that some of our favorites, Liz Green, Rick Levine, I believe Stephen Forrest, my teacher, might be having returns as well. But you know what, y'all? Be unapologetically exactly who you are, but also you're still alive, so expect disruptions. Okay, let's look some more at these themes of this Uranus entering into Gemini before we actually break down the aspects. When Uranus is entering Gemini, the air waves get electrified because Gemini is an air energy. So literally the form of your speech, the communication, your local communities, the environments that you're around, early education, how we process information, it's all up for a revolutionized energy, okay? So the thing about it is that we may see this happening quickly. It might be really, really fast, right? We're already seeing how quickly AI works. We're seeing how it's impacting everything from transportation, travel. We're seeing educational reform or conversations about educational reform, more online education becoming available. One of the other things you can think about too in terms of the systems where information is happening are your neural networks. What's going on in your own neural networks? What do we know about it? Oh my goodness, the wearable technology. Now listen, I've had a Fitbit forever, so, whatever on that. Holographs. What about holographs coming into our learning environments, having more of that? We maybe have more decentralization of media. It's not just the news outlets that are reporting information and media to us. If you've never seen what's been happening on some of our other platforms like TikTok, as soon as things are happening, normal, everyday people are picking it up, right? There's going to be new publishing tools, new publishing rights, new legal things that will likely become into language as well. Now we look beyond this because Uranus is a societal energy as well, right? The gender norms, the language around gender, how we use that will likely come more into focus and evolution as well. We're going to see more things about being inclusive, about rebellions, about what is considered equity and inclusion. And these kinds of words that have been hot trigger words for a minute, we're going to see them start to shift a lot more. So it brings this sense of revelation and changing to syntax of a lot of things we'll bring into conversation. One of them I was thinking about as well is that traditional words, thoughts, or phrases will get a new looking over, right? What does it mean to be a mother? What does that mean? What has a previous thought process been, a traditional thought process? What is today's thought process? What does it mean cross-culturally? What does it mean to be an entrepreneur? All of our words are going to be up for a conversation, and I really can't wait to see what comes out of it. This is all well and exciting, but it kicks a lot into gear, right? It kicks up the nervous system. And that is something I think we have to be aware of when we're talking about Uranus coming into Geminis, because it can also be restless, scattered, and anxious. And that level of nervous energy brought into the body will need support. So again, we're going to how do we look at our neural pathways? How do we work with our nervous systems? We may struggle as Uranus is in Gemini with just this massive exposure, overexposure to information or ideas, short attention spans, right? Shorter attention spans, right? Like I absolutely can't watch a 30-minute video. It needs to be 5 minutes or less. We could see more of this really creeping up. We could see disconnection, a true disconnection, right? I'm just putting out a lot of content, or I'm saying a lot of words, or I'm having a lot of conversation, and I'm masking that as actually being connected, right? That's very, very different. They're different experiences. So one of the keys I think here is to be Gemini about it. First of all, know that it is a possibility to have an absolute verbal communication burnout. Right? We have to just acknowledge that bang on, but also to stay curious, stay rooted, and be discerning. And the best way to find that discernment is going to be within our own centers. How do we come to our centers and slow down enough to know what is my information guiding me clearly, softly, purely, in a way that's empowered versus what's being pumped into me in terms of stimulating my system, right? So there's a lot to consider there. Let's see how else this is taking shape, because now we know we've got a transit where we've got all of our professors moving into a masculine container, and what that is bringing externalized action, and a piece of the solution and participation is feminine softness getting rooted in groundness and in your neural system. We know that this is happening in what we would consider a summertime lunar phase energy, giving us a space to ask and refine questions, reminding us we're not starting from scratch here. We're simply rebuilding and refining on what we've already built. Now, who are the rest of the players in the game? First and foremost, let's take a look at this chart. You can see here that in our breakdown of the astrological aspects, the shape and flavor of the lessons that we're going to experience, at least until November, are pretty sweet, I think. So we've got Uranus conjunct Venus here in Gemini. Now, this is an air conjunction, and this is stunning. I think it's stunning, right? Because Uranus and Venus come together in an air sign. It lights up the themes of our love, our value, our money, our creativity, our relationships, but through that lens of communication. So expect surprising connections, expect relationship breakthroughs, or even changes in how you express affection. Right? How you value having affection expressed to you. Because this could also mark a really big shift in what we find attractive aesthetically, right? Like the aesthetic trends, maybe more tech meets beauty, more, we'll definitely see, I think, if history is correct, more gender fluid fashion, things like that will be coming in, more radical self-expression coming through the lens of how we show up in our personal lives, right? One woman described it, and I thought it was so interesting, is that she had built her company and it was doing really well. And more and more and more, as we're approaching this particular transit, the thing she's wanting to do is wear more dresses. And she's like, that is very out of my box. I would have never thought to do that. So it's like sometimes what is this wild epiphany right, that is coming and what you value can seem like it's something really old and really traditional, but it doesn't matter as long as it's outside of the box for you. So when you're looking at your astrology chart, first of all, find where the 0 to 2 degrees of Gemini is at so that you can see where Uranus and Venus are making a stunning aspect to help you lighten up and bring new communication and new thinking to that particular house in your chart. Now, next, we see the professors talking to each other. Uranus is in a sextile here with Neptune and Saturn in Aries. So we've got a fire-air sextile, very compatible. The sextile creates a pocket of opportunity, but we're intelligently taking action on it, right? Remember, this is a masculine vibration, so we are in action. And the sextile creates that harmony, but it's energized, right? And now it's energized by conversation, by innovation, by intuition, but also by structure, which is Saturn's support. So I think that when we look at this transit and we look at how this particular aspect speaks to it, it supports visionary systems. We've got to have systems in place to allow things to work. Systems can allow things to work. It can also show us where we need to envision an innovative, new, intuitive system that will work better, right? It becomes this blend of creativity and structure, tech that aligns with spiritual purpose, a system that allows for both freedom and discipline. Like, how do we create that? Saturn in Aries, though, is going to give us a bit of backbone. Neptune in Aries is going to give us more of a prophetic, I think, clarity as to like, hold on, what is this really like intuitively, and what's the vision around this? And then Uranus, now moving into Gemini as the newest professor to switch signs, says, okay, let's talk about that. Let's say it out loud. We have to talk this vision out loud, maybe get it on paper. The last aspect that I think is really coming to our attention here is that Uranus is in trine. It's an applying trine, of course, with Pluto in Aquarius. All of the professors having a conversation, but this is our air trine. So the trine here is like a mind melter, but I think in the best way. Uranus and Pluto in air signs can radically reform how we organize society, particularly around, of course, communication, data, justice, equity, systems, right? This is also where I think we will see the most significant system reform in information sharing and intelligence, maybe even group dynamics, that we've seen in a very, very long time. It's about power, Pluto, meeting invention and innovation, Uranus, in the collective space, in the collective mind, which is air. Profound awakenings are available here, but only if I think we stay humble and we stay teachable and we stay honest and we stay Gemini, we stay curious, right? I know that in my own personal experience, and many of you are echoing it, particularly in the Venus Reset program, this place of, I don't want to work against my intuition anymore. And in some cases, I can't. My body, my nervous system will not let me work against my system anymore. That is a massively profound reawakening at a collective level as it steps into the zeitgeist. So it's an amazing energy that we have to work with. So there's a lot happening at this transit, and I know 1,000% we're going to go out there and we're going to hear some really horrific things around this astrology. And there will likely be, because we're humans and we have a history of cyclical humaning, some things that are going to challenge the hell out of absolutely all of us. It's going to challenge our thinking. It's going to challenge our voice. It's going to challenge systems of communication. But I want us to also keep in mind and remember and have a reflection of the absolute adaptability and thrivability of the human experience, right? When the Industrial Revolution blew in, people said, I'm not doing it, I'm not participating, we'll never make it. And here we are today having a conversation in the digital revolution, right? So we have done a lot and we're not even close to being done. So I want you to remember that. I call you to invite you to remember that and to remember this about yourself. You have effectively survived 100% of your life, whatever that has been. And this transit will likely be no different. You have power to choose how you'd like to participate with it. So to wrap up, what is Uranus in Gemini, I think, with this ingress asking us? It's asking us not just about learning faster, right? Let's learn fast. Let's get all the information in. It's learning deeper. It's learning weirder. It's learning outside of our comfort zone. It's learning with curiosity, and it's learning freer, because Uranus wants to break free what has been stuck or does not have enough life in it to continue to survive. It's about relationships that evolve. It's about where love doesn't have to end because we've been stuck, but we're allowed to innovate. We're allowed to evolve and understand each other's thinking from a different position, right? It's about ideas that wake us up because we've been asleep at the wheel of our lives for too long in some way. It's about using technology consciously. It's about using our voices with integrity. Right? I think it's also about remembering that, yes, there's going to be a lot of noise, but there's also a lot of need. So when we use our voices to share in a way that we can help with the need, thanks, Alexa, we're going to be able to make a lot of progress. Keep in mind here, though, as we wrap this up, that as the outer planets, our professors, are going to travel through these masculine signs, especially as we step forward and they fully take on their places, we are going to be asked to move, to act, to initiate, to express. But please remember that in a masculine container, feminine energy actually has the opportunity to blossom. It doesn't vanish. It becomes the grounding force beneath all of the speed, especially when it's awake and it's aware, it's grounded in the body, and it is empowered. And that means that it looks soft and fierce and clear as it needs to be. So stay embodied, stay rational, stay curious. Don't be afraid to pause. Don't be afraid to soften. Don't be afraid to receive as all of this action is happening. And learn to live in the new revelation and the revolution that is available to us right now. So I invite all of you, my beautiful friends, let's do this Uranus entering Gemini transit together and as freely as we can possibly do this thing. All right, beautiful friends, I look forward to connecting with you in the next video. Please click in the description box down below. I would love to see you in class. I would love to see you softening with me in the Venus Reset program. And I definitely want to know what beautiful message that you have that someone needs, that you are ready to stop saying, I'm not going to do the digital revolution. And I will see you online in the YouTube channel where I will show you how to do it. Bye, my loves.